Hello and welcome to the Celtic Huddle podcast. I'm Mark Wilson. Today I'm joined by the Celtic legend, a man with the best beard in football and some of the best dance moves in football. Ex-teammate of mine's Joe Ledley. Joe won 3 league titles and a Scottish Cup under Neil Lennon. Also joined today by Derek McGregor from the Scottish Sun. He's been close to all the major stories at Parkhead this season. So on today's podcast, we'll discuss this Sunday Scottish Cup clash against Rangers. We'll have a look at the latest news in the managerial situation at Parkhead, and we'll also talk to Joe about his time at Celtic and his plans for the future. So stay with us for the next 45 minutes, and also get your comments in as usual, your questions in us. We'll put them to Joe, to Derek, and myself will answer and read out as many as we possibly can. We want to hear from you, the Celtic fans. And I'm delighted to say, once again, the podcast is now sponsored by First Star Legends Gin, First Class Transfers and Social Recluse. We thank them all for their support. So, let's get to it. No time to waste, Derek. Let's bring in our guest, the one and only Joe Ledley. Joe, how you doing, mate?
Hi, Widow. You okay, pal?
Yeah, good to see you. Good to see you're still growing that beard. It's looking well. Bit of length in that.
There's a few grey hairs popping up, but that's just coming with age, isn't it, really? So, still going strong.
Yeah, you're getting old. I've noticed a few greys in my beard, Derek, as well, but I trim mine's off. Joe obviously likes to grow it. Listen, let's get right into it. And Derek, thanks very much for joining us in the studio. It's good to see you actually in person rather than through a Zoom camera. But let's turn our attention to the game on Sunday. Derek, quite unusual, but Celtic going to this as underdogs this game on Sunday?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think you have to respect the fact, Mark, that Rangers are champions. They're 20 points ahead of Celtic, and they've won the title emphatically. So I think you have to be respectful to Rangers from that point of view. But that doesn't mean to say that Celtic can't win on Sunday. I think there's a good possibility of that. There has to be certain factors that have to come into play for that to happen. But no, I think it's fair enough to say Rangers are favourites.
Yeah, Joe, what do you think yourself? I mean, we've been to Ibrox numerous times together in these games, and we'll touch on a few of them later on. But Celtic, are they going in as underdogs into this game? And I mean, what do you think the realistic chances are of winning it?
Yeah, I think they will be going in as underdogs, like you said. Rangers are champions. Good few points ahead. So. But if you look at that team, the Celtic team, especially now with Jamesy Forrest coming back in, it's looking a lot stronger. You just never know in an Old Firm game, anything can happen. I still believe Celtic can win it, and I'm sure they believe as well. So it's going to be an entertaining game. Yeah,
and I mean, there's still plenty of quality on the pitch for Celtic. We'll touch on last weekend's game a wee bit later on, but individual players, there's still match winners in that Celtic side. Who would you pick out, Joe, for certain individuals who can, turn it on in the big games, deal with the pressure of going to Ibrox against a strong Rangers team and winning the game? Any in mind who need big performances and can win the game for Celtic?
Yeah, obviously Brownie. He's always been one of the big characters in that. In these games, as a captain as well, when I was there, and obviously yourself, you'd always look up to Brownie. He always sets the tone. Once you get in that huddle, he sets a tone from the beginning. I'm glad to see Jamesy back. I think he's been a massive miss for this team. He'll be a big player for the end of the season. Edward as well at top. He's a great player. Hopefully they can keep him for next season. He's been, his goal scoring has been fantastic. It reminds you a bit like Gary Hooper. So. Yeah. They're the main players. Callum McGregor as well. He's come on leaps and bounds the last few years. So they're the main people for me, main players who will be up for this game and set the tone.
Yeah, I mean, interesting point. Robbie Smith has tweeted, and Celtic have dominated the last 3 Old Firm games. If we had our finishing, we would have won the games. Interesting point Joe makes here about Edward. Derek, he was better the last Old Firm game. I mean, is he due a big performance? Is he a match winner on Sunday potentially for Celtic if he turns up?
Clearly, yeah. I mean, I think he's obviously approaching, he's a couple of months away from, probably leaving Celtic in a transfer. So now is the optimum time for I think, for Edouard to deliver. Certainly, if he's wanting to have as good an options as possible to leave Celtic, and I think it's almost certain he's going to be sold, then these are the kind of games that he needs to turn up, he needs to deliver. I think the most recent derby, it was a tremendous assist from Edouard for El Yunusi's goal. So he's much more than just a goal scorer for Celtic. But clearly, I think if Celtic are to win on Sunday, they're going to need a big performance from Edouard.
Yeah, interesting that game. Edouard, just as the first half wore on, just started drifting out into that right back area for Rangers where Balogun was, and he affected the game from that kind of inside left channel, and he was much better than a lot of the performances we've seen from Edouard. So similar would be spot on for Celtic on Sunday. Joe, you mentioned Scott Brown there, and he is an important player, no doubt, still for Celtic, even though he is coming to the end of his Celtic career. But how desperate will he be to go out in a high and win this tie, put Rangers out the cup, do it at Ibrox? He'll be desperate to go out in a high in this one, will he not?
Yeah, he will be, and at the end of the day, it's a trophy to be won as well. So he would want to be, lifting the trophy as a captain as the last time as well. And he's been unbelievable for the club. He'll go down as a legend. But that won't faze him. He'll just go out there and play his own game and drag everyone out with him. He's always been that. It's not about him. He'll go into that game and think about everyone else and try and get behind them and encourage them as a player and as a man as well. So, I'm sure, even though he's coming to the last few games for Celtic, he'll want to go out there and win, like he always does.
And listen, give us a wee insight. Obviously, I know what he's like, but give people a wee insight of what Scott's like before these games, leading up to them, during them, even in the dressing room before it, in the huddle, without giving away any secrets, and after it when we win. Give people a wee insight what he's like.
He's massive, like you say. He's a character off the pitch as well. He switches completely. I've never seen someone just go from having choking and having to mess around in a change room to come into match day. He's completely different. He could be standing next to his best mate and he won't speak to him. He's so determined to go on that pitch and win, and that's the player. That's the person he is. He's an unbelievable character, and I think that's what you miss as well. Is the dressing room, having him. He's a massive influence, in that dressing room as players, and he needs 100% off everyone. He's the one who goes out there and dedicates his ability and gives 100% for everyone as well, and making sure that they're up to standard, and that's what he'd be missed for.
Joe, 10 years ago, it's quite incredible, that Scottish Cup tie at Ibrox, the kind of so-called birth of the Bruni, the iconic celebration. What's your recollections of that? And did you think when you saw that at that time that was going to become an iconic moment?
No, I did. I didn't think anything of it at first. I was just surprised he actually scored. So
with his left foot.
Yeah, exactly. It was a great goal as well. And at that time, he wasn't.
Some would argue, Joe, that I did the hard work by cutting it back from him, and he tapped into the top corner. But
that's it. You
I don't like to pat my own back. Exactly. Yeah. When there's a statue outside Celtic Park of Bruni doing the Bruni, I hope there's a miniature one of me claiming the assist behind him.
Yeah, exactly. But no, that celebration went viral. It went massive, and like you say, he's still doing it now. But that's the sort of player he is, and he likes to go out and have a laugh. But once he crosses that line, he's so focused. I've never seen a player like that in my whole career.
Did that moment inspire the boys, Joe, at that time?
Yeah, I think it did. I think Willow will agree as well. There was a massive performance from us. We had a fantastic team. We had a great, bunch of players, not just off the pitch as well. We were all together. Great team bonding. It was a great place to be, and that's sort of, like you said, that celebration was what we were all about off the pitch as well.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, Joe. That time for me at Celtic was probably the best dressing room that I had been involved in. I think when you see Scott scoring that goal and the celebration, the boys round about him, it showed what it meant and how together we were, especially at that stage. We had 10 men, remember, for most of the game. It still remains my favourite game for Celtic that I've ever been involved in. That 2-2 game, and people say, well, you didn't win the game, but I had absolutely everything, and just because we were up against it for so long, the goals that were scored in the game, Joe, I was watching it today, Joe, you assisted for Puff's goal, the equaliser, and then Brownie's goal, and then we could have won it at the end with Samaras's header. And it's amazing to think, Derek, that that's 10 years ago.
It is incredible, and I mean, let's not forget, that was a good Rangers side. And I think when Joe arrived at Celtic, Rangers were 2-in-a-row champions. It was quite a formidable challenge, I think, for Celtic to overcome that. Obviously, they didn't ultimately do it that season, but the strength of that Celtic team was clear. And you were at the heart of it, Joe.
Yeah, well, listen, it certainly was. Yeah, on you go, Joe. I mean, we had just to follow that up, we had a strong midfield with you, Key, Beram and Scott Brown. I mean, that's pretty formidable, eh?
Yeah, it was. We had a fantastic squad. Very good players. Like you said, Key, Beram, Brownie. I just thought, as a player as well, you need to up your game in the minute you sign for Celtic. They don't give you enough time to dwell. I had come with a bit of pressure, obviously coming from the Championship, and just failed to go into Premier League with Cardiff. So, once I sort of adapted, my first year was a little bit slow than what I expected. And then from there, I just went on from leaps and bounds. And like I said, it was more with the players who I was with off the field, which helped as well. Settled in straight away, and we had fantastic players, and it was hard for me and to try and keep my place because there's so much quality. But once you got it, you have to stay in it, and that's what I achieved. And we had a great team, great players, and they went on to bigger things and better. We had Wanyama coming in, but like what I said, that 2-2 draw, we absolutely outplayed them. Even with a man down, we dominated the game. We were playing the right way. We played some fantastic football. Emilio Aguirre was frightening. His first year, he was one of the best left backs I've ever seen. He's bombing down there, whipping balls in. And we played really good football. I know the first year we did when they lost by 1 point, but it was the best football I've seen and been in.
Yeah, listen, I would agree with that. I love playing in that team. But Joe, listen, you've got experience of scoring in these games. I mean, you scored in the cup final. We got beaten, but you scored the winner later on that year, 2011, your header. I mean, just describe that feeling of scoring the winner in one of these games. It's just sensational. Hard to put into words.
Yeah, it was. Do you know what? First of all, I remember, because you know what Lenny was like. He'd come in, he'd just name the players, and then all of a sudden I was thinking, wait there, we've got quite a lot of midfielders here. So I was trying to Pax. I was like, Pax, where am I playing? Because he didn't write it down, did he? You should just say, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And he goes, your left back. I was like, what? Left back? Old Firm. I want to be in the midfield. So I played left back. I think I was against Luco. I was just like, oh my God, pace. But then at the end of the day, got the corner, great ball from Charlie. That's what he's capable of doing, and just got above the defender. And I'm just glad that I got a clean sheet as well, the left back, and finished 1-0. It was just unbelievable achievement because we struggled at the beginning of that season, and we were miles behind Rangers. I think we went above them, and we didn't look back and went on to win the first title.
Joe, quite often I think Celtic and Rangers will sign players and instinctively you think they're made for Old Firm derbies, and I certainly put you in that category. I thought you were made for an Old Firm derby. Your first season, you actually played in 6 of them, I think it was. There was 7
There was 7 that season, aye.
You played in 6 in your first season alone. Did you relish it? Could you not get enough of the derbies?
I loved it. I think when I look back in my career, I love big games, and I've always come through in big games, and I don't know why. I don't know whether how it changes my mentality. Even when I was at Cardiff, FA Cup final, semi-finals, playoff finals, I just love big games, and I think a lot of players should enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of pressure on you, but I remember the first Old Firm, the occasion got to me massively. We got absolutely battered. I think we lost 3-0 or something at home to Rangers, and we were terrible.
Yeah, 3-1, yeah.
Yeah, 3-1, and I think from there you just learn from your mistakes, and I enjoy big games. I think a lot of players do. They're the best games to be involved in. Obviously, I think you learn more from when you lose than when you win. So, it's just for me, it's just a great occasion to be involved in an Old Firm. It's the best derby in the world.
Yeah, listen, that 3-1 game, don't forget, that was the one Willie Collum heard a penalty. Remember that, Joe? Not that I'm remembering 10 years on, but I've still to see somebody replicating hearing a penalty. But I mean, Joe, so much support and love coming in for you down the sides. Even I'm getting text messages when I put out you were coming on the show. But the Celtic fans certainly hold you in high esteem, and especially what Derek says there, for the big games, against Rangers, you often produced, even if it wasn't centre midfield. I've seen you playing left midfield, seen you playing left back. So fair play to you. Look, back to the game on Sunday, Derek. Defensively, Celtic have been a shambles this year. Let's be straight about it. Do you think they've got enough to go there with a wee bit of renewed confidence from previous weeks to go there and keep a clean sheet on Sunday?
There's no question about that. I mean, I think if you look at the stats since John Kennedy came in, they've kept 4 clean sheets in 5 games, which is impressive. And I think clearly you have to give Mick McManus a bit of credit as well, because obviously I think Stephen stepped up into the first team coaching setup. He was a renowned centre-half himself. So there's undoubtedly Celtic are going into this derby, I think, stronger defensively than they've been for a while. Can they keep a clean sheet? I still personally think it's odds against. But, I think there's no doubt there's more confidence about the Celtic side. I think Scott Bain's a more confident goalkeeper since John came in. Mm-hmm. I think Stephen Welsh, I think he's been a real discovery this season. And I think he particularly appreciates, playing for John Kennedy, who publicly has hailed Stephen Welsh. So I think John's getting the best out of Stephen Welsh. So I think defensively Celtic are probably in as good a position as they've been, against Rangers this season.
Yeah, well, we put a poll out on our Twitter, so join us on Twitter if you're not already, at Huddle Celtic. We're on Instagram as well, Celtic Huddle Podcasts. Head over to socials, incidentally. There's a competition running there to win 2 tickets to the Hydro in November with Henrik Larsson, John Hartson and Chris Sutton, so go over there. But we put a poll out anyway saying, if Celtic win on Sunday, should John Kennedy be in with a chance of getting a job permanent, or should he get the job permanent? Interesting. So far, yes, 14%, no, 86%. So, these polls, can shed a bit of light on what.
I think, as we all know in football, Mark, results form opinions of people in the game, particularly managers. And, obviously John came into the role and there was a lot of negativity towards him. People didn't even want to consider him as a potential manager. I think John's been quite impressive since he came in. He's had 5 games, they're unbeaten. 4 clean sheets, they've won 3, they're scoring a lot of goals. I think they're playing a lot of flowing football. He's getting the best out of certain players. So I think there'll be a number of fans that maybe look more positively in John. Do the majority still want him as manager? Probably not. But let's face it, if they go to Ibrox on Sunday and win, Mark, I think perceptions start to change about John. And at the same time, the longer this goes with regards Eddie Howe's position, then there could be a wee bit more momentum towards John.
Yeah, right, on to the new manager then. We've just seamlessly worked into that. Well done there, Joe. What do you think, what do you make on what's going on just now? Neil Lennon away, John Kennedy in interim charge. Firstly on Neil, what did you think the way things went for him through the months in November, December, him leaving, and then secondly, what do you make of how John's done when he's took the job?
Yeah, obviously, first I was going to see Lenny go. I had a lot of respect for him. For me individually as a player, he'll go down as one of the greats, I'm sure. But this season, if you look at the results and the performances, it wasn't good enough. He'll tell you that as well. So I can understand the decision. It's good to see John come in. He's been around the club for many years, even my time there as well. And I'm hoping that he gets his opportunity. I know he's just at the moment, but you want that security. You want to be appointed as manager. He's doing great, like you said, 4 clean sheets out of 5, which is a big point for Celtic defensively. Whether he gets the opportunity, I'm not sure. Like, he's been working with Lenny, Brendan Rodgers, so he's got experience. He knows how it works. But like you said, Eddie Howe's been linked. He's been fantastic at Bournemouth. There's a few clubs down south I know which are interested. Palace, Southampton I've heard as well. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's vital that they take their time and work out ready for next season, because it's going to be a big season next year for Celtic.
Yeah, Jamie Hendry, sorry Derek, Jamie Hendry here, we should move on from Eddie Howe. He's dragging his heels for a reason. At this rate, we are going to be left behind again next season with a second-rate manager, just like the goal-geeking situation. Maybe he should check his goal-seeking situation. But anyway, sorry Derek, on you go.
No, not at all. I mean, I was going to ask Joe, possibly an unfair question, Joe, given your obviously experience of playing for Crystal Palace. But I mean, is Crystal Palace a better job than Celtic for Eddie Howe?
I personally don't. I think Celtic would be a lot better for him. But I think with the thought of down south, the Celtic don't get enough credit, and people don't realise how big they are until you go there. And for me, it's the greatest club I've ever played for, and one of the biggest clubs in the UK. So I'd like to see Eddie Howe at Celtic. I think he's a good manager. I think the way he plays football is the right way. He's hungry. He wants to win stuff. You can see that the way he done at Bournemouth. But I think with managers, they sort of want to be in the Premier League and show people what they can do at the highest level. And it's going to be an interesting one. I think it should have been done earlier if they were going to agree it. But it doesn't look good at the moment. I think Eddie will be looking at Premier League, I think.
Gaz Smith says here, if the only thing that is holding up a potential deal with Eddie Howe is director of football, then make it happen and let him bring in his own team. Whoever is going to make him settle in sooner would be for the best. Joe, Derek just mentioned there with Crystal Palace. Tell us a wee bit about Crystal Palace. Do they have the sway? I know you says about the Premier League, but do they have the sway to take Eddie Howe? Would he be more comfortable, say, in that environment where there is less pressure? Was there less pressure when you went as a player? You talked about the demands of Celtic when you came. Took you a wee while to get used to. Was that different at Palace? And what was expected of you week in, week out? Yeah,
of course. You're going from one club who demands a win every single, weekend, every game. Then you go to Crystal Palace and you're happy with a draw, at certain places. And, if you get beat by Man United, Man City, then, it's expected. So, it's nowhere near as big of pressure going into Crystal Palace. So I think Eddie would be suited the way if he wanted to be like that as a manager and go down that route with Crystal Palace. Don't get me wrong, he got fantastic players there. Wilfried Zaha, Benteke. There's a few players there who are fantastic for him, but it's going to be interesting. Like I said, when I went to Palace, it was just to be in the Premier League. When you're down here in Wales or England, it's the biggest league in the world, and that's what we want to watch. As kids, you watch a Premier League, and it was a great opportunity for me. I was gutted to leave Celtic. I would like to have had a few more years, but the time was ready for me, I think.
Palace is a good club, Joe, with its own kind of fine history, but is the difference with Eddie that if he goes to Celtic, he can become great at Celtic in terms of what he can achieve, and obviously the Champions League, etc.?
Yeah, well, that's it. If you become manager at Celtic and do well, you'll be loved forever and win titles and do well in the Champions League. You'll go down in history. So, I think as a player, that's what you want to do. As a manager, hopefully, Eddie will make the right decision and join Celtic. I'd love to see him there as the next manager. Like you said, the fans will adore you if you do well, and will be in the histories for a long time. So that's down to Eddie to make a decision. I'm sure there'll be a few clubs after him, whether Celtic can, like you said, get in his coaching staff. It's all about coaching staff who we can bring in as a manager. That goes a long way. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be difficult.
It's interesting because it's really about the personal issues with Eddie Howe or what he wants to achieve. In the English Premier League, listen, he's done that. He's been there, done that, but he's never really going to sample European football, is he? No. With a Palace or a Southampton, really. I mean, Champions League football. Now he's got a chance at Celtic, and that's got to be the big draw. You look at Brendan Rodgers. Surely he's a big draw when people saw him. Now, I know Brendan Rodgers' stature was above Eddie Howe's, but still how he's rebuilt his career after Liverpool, came to Celtic, Champions League games against PSG and your Barcelonas, and, you know, that. Surely Eddie Howe wants a shot at those teams, even if he has major underdogs going into that competition. If Celtic get through the qualifiers, he'd want a shot at that, would he not?
I think when Celtic made the offer to Brendan Rodgers, Mark, I think Brendan Rodgers got it, because I think he realised at that point that, I think, other than a playoff success for Swansea at Wembley, which in itself was significant, you hadn't actually won anything as a manager. And I think while Brendan Rodgers didn't see his long-term future being at Scottish football, what he did get was Celtic's a massive club, go there, achieve things, you've got a European platform, and after 2 or 3 years, give yourself the opportunity to go back to the Premier League. And that's how exactly it worked for Brendan Rodgers. I think with Eddie Howe, Eddie Howe's achieved great things at Bournemouth, no question. A top young manager. If he goes to Crystal Palace, I think, as Joe was alluding to there, I think it's about staying in the Premier League. That's the achievement. Are Palace going to make top 6? I very much doubt it. Are they going to win an FA Cup or a League Cup? I very much doubt it. They're certainly not going to blaze a trail in Europe. Whereas if he goes to Celtic for a couple of years, 2-3 years, I think he could probably emulate what Brendan Rodgers did.
Yeah. Strange Love the Doctor says, I would rather have Bielsa than any other manager. Well, that would be a draw, would it not? Look, it'll be interesting. Joe, there's been so many names connected with this job. So we've got Eddie Howe. There's Roy Keane. A couple of weeks ago, Roy Keane was the favourite. I mean, I had people texting me saying, Roy Keane's a done deal. He's in the door. I was thinking, really? I mean, I can't see that happens. Maresca, Steve Clarke, all linked with a job. What do you think of how long this is taking, Joe? Do you think Celtic are right, if it is to be Eddie Howe? Do you think Celtic are right to wait and let Eddie Howe take his time? We heard his representative say that he doesn't think Eddie will take a job to the summer at the earliest. Is that right? Or should they just say, well, here's your date. If you can't give us an answer then, it's time to move on to one of these other names on the list?
Yeah, I think, like you said, they got to wait, because it's a massive decision at the end of the day. It's got to be the right one. But as a manager, I'm sure everyone now in the situation are planning pre-seasons, games, what the transfers are for next season, who's leaving. And I think that's where Celtic would probably be saying to Eddie, well, we need an answer as soon as possible, because you don't get much time. It goes so quick. And it is wasting valuable time. I know they got to wait and make the right decision on the manager, which I can totally agree. But the longer they wait, it's going to be more difficult to get the pre-seasons, get to know the players as well, because the manager needs to come in and know the environment. And it's going to be, I don't want it to be too long. You know what I mean? It's going to be waiting and taking a long time for him to get his transfers and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, the longer the wait, or Eddie Howe isn't appointed, Derek, John Kennedy's chances of becoming manager improves, and especially if he backs up with results. The Scottish Buell here says, to be honest, I always thought JK was a natural successor to Rodgers and Lennon. All the stuff in between makes people think he's not the man. I honestly think he is. I think many will be surprised what John Kennedy can do. So, we mentioned earlier on, John's influence in the team seems to have turned the corner. I've noticed a slight difference with how they've been playing. He mentioned in his post-match the other day, very kind of Brendan Rodgers-like in his post-match, how they play from Bain through the lines, and it's all in a process. And yes, they will concede chances, but as long as the players keep trusting in it. Now, Saturday was probably arguably the best performance of the season. James Forrest back in the side. I don't think that's a coincidence. So if he keeps, getting these performances starting Sunday at Ibrox, he's got to be in better chances.
I don't think there's any doubt about it, Mark. I think John, John's been very impressive the way he's handled it. I think he's come in, he's clearly his own man. And I totally understand Celtic supporters being concerned in the sense that they will see him as part of a failed regime. And I mean that with the greatest of respect to Neil. But John, in the eyes of a lot of fans, is damaged by his association with Neil, particularly from this season. And I think that's very unfair.
Yeah.
Because I think John is his own man. I think since he's come in, I think he's handled the media impressively. But I think you can see with the players that he's actually made a lot of players more confident with his own man management style. Now, I often think it's often an indictment in players that suddenly they can improve with another manager. You know, I think that can be quite damning. And I can imagine that Neil was possibly watched a few Celtic performances and looked at a few Celtic individuals and thought, you weren't producing that for me. How come?
Good point, yeah.
But I think John has come in and put his own style in. I think he spoke well in the media. I think the results are impressive. I think the last performance against Rangers, if Celtic had been more clinical, they'd have won that game. And they posed Rangers a lot of problems. And I think week by week, I think, as you were saying there, Mark, I think the more uncertainty with anyone else coming in, I think John slowly but surely is strengthening his case for the job.
Yeah. Just before we move on to yourself, Joe, thoughts on James Forrest? He's been missing for a lot of the season. Back in Saturday, well, back a couple of weeks ago, but looked back to his best. Just looked hungry on Saturday. I mean, what a miss he's been for Celtic this year. How important will it be if he plays on Sunday, if he makes it? I know he went off injured, or a precaution they're saying, but an important one for him to take part on Sunday.
Yeah, he is. He's a massive player for Celtic. He's one of the best. He's proven, over the last few years and few seasons how good he is. He's not just score goals, he's creating goals. He's a defender's nightmare. He's so quick. And I think the more he's matured in the age as well, he's gained a lot more experience. You can see that in his play. He's got better over the years. And he's a massive part of the Celtic, the way they play. He gets you up the pitch, creates chances. And for me, I think he's up there with probably one of the best players in that team. And to be out for so long, it's just proven how much they've missed him. And, he doesn't get much credit, Jamesy.
Yeah, I know. That's strange, yeah. I find that strange. I mean, on the phone in, the amount of fans that came on at the start of the season and says, James Forrest has to be at the team, he's not doing it, he's this, that, he's no end product. He's taking out the team, and Joe's spot on there. He doesn't get much credit, but
he is. Yeah.
He delivers.
Joe is spot on. I mean, for some reason, James Forrest has always had to battle against negativity from the fans. He's actually a Celtic legend, James Forrest, I think. And I don't use that term lightly. I think his medal collection speaks for itself. He's over 10 years at Celtic, and he's overcome a lot of issues, but he's a big player for Celtic. And for some reason, he's never had that kind of unanimous kind of backing from the fans. He always seems to be up against, criticism, and no matter what he does.
Yeah. Listen, just on the John Kennedy thing before we move on here, Martin Lavelle says there's absolutely no pressure on the games he's managed to date. Kennedy ain't for me, but Sunday will tell. Yep, if he goes to Ibrox in a knockout game against Rangers, puts on a performance, wins, maybe that will change people's perception, opinions. Say 14% as it stood at the start of this poll today saying yes, he's in with a chance of getting a job if he wins on Sunday, but 86% saying no.
But with the greatest respect to the fan putting the message in about John's games have come with no pressure. I mean, he's damned if he doesn't.
Yeah.
If he'd have lost those games, if Rangers had come to Parkhead and won 3-0, he's going to know all about it then. So I think that's harsh on John Kennedy. I think as Joe was saying at the start there, every Celtic game you have to win, and John has come in. And he's no different to anyone else. If he loses, then he knows all about it. And then people talk about the pressure that's on him. So I think when he's actually getting results, he has to get the credit where it's due as well.
The one we bought against his name is obviously at Tannadice, where that was a weak performance. But apart from that, you're right, the match Rangers, good performance on Saturday. And we'll see you on Sunday. On to you, Joe. So, you're back at Newport just now, just by your house. Easy journey for you. Happy with your career where it is just now? Content? Loving life?
Well, obviously you want to try and play as high up as you can. Disappointed I was out for football for so long. You can
what happened there, Joe? Just to go into that, why were you out for a period?
Well, I think it's just the age. You can see football. This is what I was just going to say. You can see with football now, it's once you go over 30, you're done. It's so hard to get a team. I know Andy King, who was struggling to get a team. Tom Huddleston. There's loads of players who's, once you hit 31, 32, they sort of look into these youngsters, which I don't think is the right way. I think well, I remember when I was growing up and playing through Cardiff in my last year before moving to Celtic, I had Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank in the team, Robbie Fowler, Trevor Sinclair, and I learned a lot from those three, just having them in and around, which gave me a lot of experience and grew. But it's just age basically. I wasn't injured, I was fit, and then I went to Australia. Now I'm at Newport, where it's just, for me, is just the way it is. Obviously, League Two is very difficult. I'm not used to it. There's a lot in the air, a lot of second balls, winning headers. But like I said, I go in the morning, I drop my kids off to school, go into train, I come back and pick them up, and everything's on my doorstep. I see my friends and family. So it's just nice to be home. I was away for over 10 years from Cardiff, so I know the players well. I trained with them last year before I went to Australia, and I know the manager pretty well. So it was sort of one of those things where it was just all sort of fell into place. And like I said, I'm coming to the end of my career now, and I can concentrate on other things as well.
Did you ever get the chance to come back? Did Lenny give you the shout to come up the road? No?
No, I didn't. When I left Crystal Palace, I sort of messaged, no, it was Derby side when he was back there. I sort of messaged and asked if I can come up and train, but sort of weren't allowed inside. People wouldn't let me come in. So, it's just one of those things where, I moved on, the club were moving on as well. So, I would never criticise anyone like that. But, it's one of those things where the older you get, the harder it is.
How do you mean, Joe, you weren't allowed inside? Are you talking about the Celtic training ground or the stadium?
No, I just weren't allowed to come and train. I've asked to train, and I think it's more because of the media hype as well. They didn't want me to come in, and everyone speculate about coming and signing and stuff like that. So it was just one of those things where I totally understood they're in a position where they're fighting for the league, and the last thing they want is media speculation and stuff like that. So. It was just one of those things where I just gone with it, and I know Lenny, he would have had me any day to come and train, but certain things weren't allowed.
Yeah, that's a strange scenario because what Joe did for the club,
Absolutely.
And I think there was merit to having you about the place. If you weren't going to sign, fine, but even in training, he's bringing up the standards of training. An experienced pro like Joe, who in my opinion could probably have still
100%
fitted into some of the teams there.
That must have hurt you, Joe, deep down. I know you're being very respectful, but that must have hurt you. That must have been a bit uncomfortable, given what you'd achieved at Celtic, Joe.
Not really. I totally I never criticised the club, because what they've done for me was fantastic, and what we achieved. It was just I could totally understand. The media would always bring it up and hype it up. So.
Never.
I can totally understand.
He's trying to turn this into Piers Morgan stories here and get you crying, Joe, on the telly.
But no, Lenny was great. He told me straight away what the situation was, and I agreed. I could see where he was coming from, but it's just one of those things where you move on, and I had a great time there, and a different way that I would have been there probably training.
Joe, do you feel you could still play for Celtic now, and have you ever thought one day you could return in some capacity?
You'd always think you'd be able to do it, but I'm not too sure. I'm 34 now. I'm getting older. Not moving as quick as what I used to, but I'm sure a few.
You were never quick. What do you mean you were never quick? That was Sonny Aluko that told me that when he was up against you.
Yeah. But a few years back, I would have definitely probably been in that team and worked hard for the place in the starting 11. So, like I said, I'm here now, and these things happen in football. So, I had a great time when I was there, and I think sometimes when you go back to an old club and don't do as well, then you don't get much credit, and they sort of see you from that. So I'm happy with what I've done when I was there at my best.
Yeah, Joe, a couple of questions coming in for you here. There was one on the screen just a second ago, just said, what was your favourite game for Celtic? One that sticks in your head?
It's got to be the Old Firm winning 1-0. That's just going for glory support there, just because I scored. But it's one of those. It was an important game, really, as well, with getting points and going above them, and then sort of.
Well, there was a 15-point gap, was there not, Joe? 15-point gap that we overcame at that period, and that goal that you scored was the one that kind of swung it to. Was it a 2-point lead for us or something like that at the top? So on you go. So pretty important goal.
I don't know whether you remember where I was thinking. I was thinking Lenny was going to just go. I honestly thought, because we were so far behind and coming after the games, I thought, oh no, he's going to just leave. And then we played Kilmarnock and we got absolutely destroyed first half. And then all of a sudden,
I was sitting on the bench thinking, this isn't my fault.
I think
I was at that game, Joe. It was quite a remarkable. It was. The second half turnaround was incredible.
Yeah, and then sort of we just believed in ourselves and went on a good run and beat Rangers, and then went on from there to win the title.
Yeah, Joe, another question here. Why did Jay eventually leave Celtic? You touched on it earlier about the Premier League, but what ultimately was the decision?
Yeah, my contract was, I was in my last year. I only had, I think it was January. I only had a few months left. My contract was run out. There was discussions about signing a new one, but I think at that time, I've done 3.5 years. I would just, looking back, I probably made a mistake. I wish I stayed. But Premier League for me at the age of 26, I think I was. No, I think I was older than 28. Was the right opportunity for me to go on and try something new and play in the best league, which I followed all my career. So that was the main reason. But I think looking back, I would have liked to have stayed at Celtic for probably longer.
Yeah, and I know you're back home in your home country, but do you miss Celtic? Do you miss Glasgow? Do you miss the Goldfish Bowl? What Glasgow is?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved the place. I loved the city. I loved the environment. I loved, walking down the street. 1 minute you're getting hammered, walking down the other street and you're getting loved. And I enjoyed my time. I thought it was a fantastic place. Amazing support. They welcomed me straight from the off. And do you know what? I haven't been back at Celtic Park since I left, which I'm gutted about. And hopefully, once all the fans and everything can go back in, and I'll be there. I went to Hampden to watch one of the Celtic Rangers game, which Celtic won. But I'm hopefully go back to Celtic Park one day.
Joe, invariably in dressing rooms all over Britain, there is a Celtic corner and a Rangers corner. Newport County, is there an Old Firm divide in that dressing room? Have you detected that already?
Yeah, no, there's not much going on. There's a few, one of the Irish boys, Celtic, which mad Celtic supporter. So, I think he's one of the favourite players of mine. So, no, it's not too bad at the moment. They haven't really said much. They always ask me how good the Old Firm is and what's it like playing for Celtic, and they're intrigued about the way it is up there and how it works, and two massive teams in one city. But I think wherever I've gone, everyone's always asked that question: what's the Old Firm like? And you just tell them it's the best derby in the world.
Yeah, nobody quite gets it until they're here, until they're in the stadium, or as players until they pull on the strip. You can never quite explain. Brian Watt here, if nothing else, Joe could have come in and taught the boys some dance moves. Joking aside, great player for us. Listen, Joe, honestly, the response we've got to you, and as I say, the text and on my Instagram, people reminiscing about favourite goals you scored, so a lot of love, and I'm sure when you come back to Celtic Park, you'll have a warm welcome. You'll be out with Hoopie the Huddle doing the half-time draw to a standing ovation. That'll be you with a Celtic scarf over your head. Yeah. What about going on, Joe? You're coming to the end of your playing career. Management, coaching on the horizon?
I'm doing my A and B licence with the FAW in Wales, so I'm doing that. Whether I want to go down that sort of route, I'm not too sure. It's just as bad as being a player. You miss on Christmases, birthdays, weddings, everything. So I'm not too sure. I'm working with my agent at the moment, doing some scouting and maybe go down that route, and also some media as well, with sort of covering a lot of Wales, the international games. So I'm going to see what happens, see this season out, hopefully get Newport promoted into League One, and then make a decision after the season where I'm going to do, whether to carry on or go into coaching and or agency. I'm not too sure, but there's a few things out there. Or maybe do a podcast like you, Willow, and see.
Exactly, making millions from it. Exactly, but listen, there's loads that will keep you busy there, Joe. I'm sure you'll find something. All right, to wrap it up then, predictions for Sunday, guys. Joe, we'll start with you. Prediction for Sunday's game. Will Celtic have enough to go through?
I'm hoping
because there's no replays. Remember, no replays, Joe.
No,
extra time penalties.
So I'm going to go. I'm going to go 2-0. I'm going to 2-0 Celtic. Clean sheet, make it 5 out of 6.
Okay, there you go, Derek.
I don't mean to be stating the obvious, but I think Celtic are going to have to be clinical. I mean, I think the previous derbies, I think they've maybe let Rangers off the hook a little bit. They have to be, if they create enough chances and are clinical, they can win this. They can win it. I think it possibly could go all the way, Mark.
Yeah.
I think as you alluded to there.
I'm the same as you. I think it'll be a draw, go all the way. I'm going to take Celtic in penalties. There you go. Drama. Penalties at Ibrox. Imagine winning that way. Guys, that's us. Joe, thanks very much for your time, mate. Enjoyed it. Loads, as I say, loads of good comments for you. Still in the Celtic fans' hearts. And listen, wish you all the best. You got a game tonight, actually, did you say? You playing tonight?
Yeah, we got Carlisle home. So have some pre-match in a bit and then go again.
Yeah, good man. Well, thanks for joining us day of match. Good luck, Joe.
No problem.
Speak to you later. And Derek, thanks very much for coming in. Enjoyed that today. Joe's a great guest. Speaks well. And
tremendous.
Listen, how fond he is of Celtic, you can tell. And would it have been good to have him back? I'm pretty sure some Celtic fans out there thinking,
yeah,
probably.
Terrific player.
Yeah.
Great guy, terrific player.
Yep. So that's us for this week. Thanks very much for listening to all your comments. And thanks very much to our sponsors, First Star Legends Gin, Social Recluse and First Class Transfers. We'll see you next week, hopefully, after progressing to the next round of the Scottish Cup.